Well, hello out there in the wonderful land of YouTube and all other social media platforms. Welcome to the MCU's Bleeding Edge. I am Cyberneck Shark, your host for tonight. I'll be moderating. And of course, we're here with my other co host, Mr. Jeff S., Mr. True Knowledge in the house. Thank you very much for being here, sir. And okay, let's move right on. So we have, of course, returning for the first time in a great while. It's great to have him back, Mr. Arch Stanton from the amazing podcast of Champions. You can find him on freeformsakara.net and all that good kind of stuff. Well, nice to have you, Arch.
Yeah, no, small correction, sakara.freeforums.net.
I
But
always get it backwards.
no, I appreciate it. It's good to see you guys as always. I'm sorry I'm not here more often, but always great to talk to you.
Oh, it's great to have you, Arch. Thank you for coming. And then for the first time here, we have a newcomer coming, which is a great privilege and wonderfully to have a new person on our panel to talk and discuss great Marvelness. And that, of course, is what was the name? I'm sorry.
I take my coffee black podcast. I'm the host, Edgar Wright, man. How y'all doing? I appreciate y'all. Shout out to Jeff, man, for letting me come on. Shout out to the whole MCU Bleeding Edges podcast, man. I'm excited to be on here. And, first time and many, many more for us. Let's do it.
Awesome. Thank you. What was the first name again? One more time.
My name is Jacoby, though.
Jacoby.
Yes, sir.
All right. Sorry. I don't know why I forgot that already. That was weird. Anyways, thank you, Jacoby, for coming on. And we're glad to have new people being on. And then, of course, we also are returning from the amazing podcast of Champions, Renee, a.k.a. Loki's mom. Welcome, Renee.
Hi there, guys. Good. Glad to be here. Glad to be back.
Always a great staple to have on our panel. She's always great to have on. Thank you for being here. So tonight we'll be discussing the Marvel Cinematic Universe film, the Ant-Man, or Ant-Man as it's called. This came out in 2015, shortly after Avengers Age of Ultron came out. So this film is definitely dealing with the, aftermath of, the Sokovia. But anyways, Ant-Man is such a great film. I really enjoyed it. It was fun rewatching it. I can't believe it's already been 7 years since it was in theaters. And it's, I can't believe it's already been that long. But this movie is such a great film. This was directed by Peyton Reed, of course, who is, I think, a great staple of directors for Marvel's films. I think he's done a great job with these films, and this one was a great first outing for him. And the whole tone of Ant-Man is just so much fun and so amazing. So basically, this film, it starts off in 1989, and we have Hank Pym coming in, and he's going to talk to Howard Stark, and we also see Haley Atwell's character, Peggy Carter, there as well. And also, I forget what the other guy's name is, but he's also somebody that they have interacted with over the years. But we have this great kind of interaction with them. And, basically Hank given his resignation because he doesn't want his tech to fall into the wrong hands, basically. And because they were going to try to use it. So we have that great kind of flashback, kind of an introduction into, a younger Hank Pym a little bit, because that's one thing I noticed about this film is they decided to go the Scott Lang route instead of the Hank Pym route. So my first question for the panel is, what were your thoughts on them going with Scott Lang versus, actually having Hank Pym in his prime Ant-Man for this film? So let's start with you, Renee.
Well, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. Well, I think they would need. You get two bangs for your buck. I guess you've got Michael Douglas, who's a legend, son of a legend, and then you also have Paul Rudd, who was kind of like the rom-com cutie, does all the funny movies, and can be a serious actor when he wants to be, and well-rounded actor. And then maybe that's why I don't know. I'm sort of looking at it from a financial standpoint, why they would do that. I don't really know that much about Hank Pym, to tell you the truth, or the Ant-Man character. I just sort of came into it pretty cold, so I have to go from that POV more so than why did they reaching back into canon, as it were, into comic books.
Okay, thank you. How about you, Jacoby?
I was thinking more like they're trying to stay away from the original comics, because that's what usually Marvel does anyway. They usually try to mix it up and give us something different. Look, Scott Lang, Cat Burglar, the Ant-Man suit is like, it kind of like messes with who he is, and not so much as far as Hank Pym. So, and I would think too, also Hank Pym, wouldn't he like the first Avenger, one of the first Avengers in the comics?
I believe he was a part of it.
Yes.
At one point he was, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's my whole spiel about it. I just think that they need two different type of dynamics, age ranges. So that's what I was thinking on that one.
Awesome, thank you. That's great. Arch.
I think it's low-key genius, because the thing this does is it adds this depth to the MCU. It's saying that important events were going on 30, 40, 50 years ago, who knows how long, and Hank Pym was a huge part of that. If you just start off with Hank and the big prototypical version of this character in modern times, it's another character you're just starting out now, and we've already got a lot of those, which is great. But to add real depth and show that there was all this important stuff, this sort of secret covert missions that he was going on in the past, and that there was this sort of proto team of Avengers going on a long time ago, I think really adds to the history and makes this whole world of the Avengers feel much more livable and alive. I think it's great. On top of the fact that it adds in this competing versions of it. You got this old school mentality versus this newer version of the character. Right. I think that whole dynamic just works really well.
Thank you. I would agree there. I mean, when I first saw that they were going that route, because I was so used to Hank Pym being Ant-Man, and they decided to do an older version of Hank Pym and then have Scott Lang working side by side, I wasn't too sure about that at first. And then after seeing the movie, I got it. I'm like, oh, this is a very genius idea. This is a really great concept. And I ended up just loving it, because I just thought the dynamic, like you were saying, is just so well done and worked really well. How about you, Jeff? What are your thoughts on them using Scott Lang and Hank Pym together?
I never questioned it, to be honest with you. I never thought about it like in any kind of negative way or anything like that. It never occurred to me when I knew that it was going to be Paul Rudd, I just automatically assumed that he would fit as Ant-Man. It made sense to me. I was like, oh, okay, like good choice. You know what I mean? Like if you were going to fill that spot with somebody, like why not go with him? So when I watched the movie for the first time, I really didn't think much of it. I mean, it didn't even really bother me that it was like right off the bat, it was like a, handing off the torch kind of thing and whatnot. I do like the flashbacks and stuff like that and whatnot. Like they could have done more of that, and it wouldn't have bothered me. Yeah, I mean, I believe that the Wasp is actually like one of the original Avengers too, if I remember correctly. So but yeah, like I said, I didn't really think too much of it. It was like a very smooth transition, and the fact that they brought in Michael Douglas to play Hank Pym was a really good pick too. That was good casting on what's her name, Sarah Finn's part, as usual.
I agree. I would completely agree there. I think that they casted this very well. Paul Rudd was an amazing casting choice for Scott Lang. And definitely, I love Michael Douglas's older Hank Pym. I think he's doing a fabulous job, and I can't wait to see what he does with Quantumanium. But before we move on, how about we play that trailer there for you guys to give you a refresher of the Ant-Man.
Imagine a soldier the size of an insect. The ultimate secret weapon.
If you give godlike powers to everyone, it's going to be chaos.
So how do we stop him?
I know a guy. Scott, I've been watching you for a while. You're different. And I believe everyone deserves a shot at redemption. Do you?
Absolutely. My days of breaking into places and stealing stuff are over. What do you want me to do?
I want you to break into a place and steal some stuff.
Makes sense.
Are you ready to become the hero?
Now, the suit has power. You have to learn how to control it. And these are your greatest allies.
You're kind of cute. Whoa.
When you're small, you have superhuman strength. You like a bullet. So you need to know how to punch.
You want to show me how to punch? Show me how to punch.
That's how you punch.
You tried to hide your suit from me. Now, it's gonna blow up in your face and destroy everyone you care about.
Scott, get out of there!
Did you think you could stop the future? You're just a thief!
No. I'm Ant-Man. I know. Wasn't my idea.
Awesome. So let's talk about that trailer for just a brief second. Even 7 years later, that trailer still is amazing. I definitely, in my thoughts and opinions, I feel the trailer gives off a way more action-packed, kind of like dramatic vibe versus that comedy element. I mean, you get a little bit of that comedy element right at the end there, that scene where the little train bumps into a Yellow Jacket. But still, I feel the trailer definitely gives a different vibe than what the actual movie fully entails. So my question to you guys is, what was your thoughts on that trailer? Does that trailer give you that same vibe? Do you still feel it feels just as impactful now as it did 7 years ago? Let's start with you, Jacoby.
Absolutely. Watching it right there, I was just like, man, there's gonna be a lot of action in this, and that's what I like from the Marvel movies, the action. But then also they give you the drama, the suspense. You never really know sometimes when you're going to watch a Marvel movie what you're going to get. And Ant-Man was just, that trailer right there just gave me that right there. I was just like, wow, just looking at it like that.
Thank you. How about you, Loki's mom?
I can't recall seeing the Ant-Man trailer originally when it first came out. I probably did, but because it was all over television and whatnot, and I think I can't say that I remember how I felt about it at the time. I know I wasn't that interested in seeing the movie itself because Ant-Man, and I sort of associated it with Spider-Man, and I'm not a big Spider-Man person. But anyway, when I did finally see Ant-Man, I saw it on television, and I was just really impressed with it. I remember I loved every bit of it. And I said, well, darn, I should have saw this one in the movies, but even so, yeah. So I can't really say that I was impressed by the trailer, but looking at it now, I mean, it really does have a lot of the action and everything that you expect to see in a Marvel and things that it's going to attract people to it. So yeah, it was well done. It's like you said, I don't think it brought out some of the I think what really made the movie was the non-action elements, the family elements and the redemption theme elements that they brought in. I think that's what really made the movie for me. So yeah.
Thank you. How about you, Jeff?
I don't remember if I saw this trailer when it came out or not, but I can tell you that watching it now, I feel like they did a really good job of encompassing what you get from the film, like right in the trailer, like it really, it lays out like the story pretty well in the trailer. They pretty much kind of explain the gist of like what's going to be going on, kind of, I guess. It's good. I mean, it's a really good movie. Like, I really enjoyed watching Ant-Man. It's when we've done like rankings before in the past, it's always been one of the films that people like have high up as one of the top like films, or maybe like a mid-tier film, like but like high up on their list. Yeah, it's a good trailer, good movie. good casting, and what is it? Is it Evangeline Lilly? Is really good as the Wasp too. That was really good casting on Sarah Finn's part. That they brought her in to play the Wasp. The Ant-Man and the Wasp is a better movie than Ant-Man, I think. But that's just my opinion.
I watched that one right after I watched Ant-Man. I don't know, man. I got on my Disney Plus and I started going crazy. I was like, okay, I hear that. Bring it back like I'm watching Hawkeye right now because Jeff got me. Jeff like, yeah, I watched that. You probably want to watch it. I started watching it because that's the only thing I missed. But yeah, sorry about that. But I get excited about Marvel. I don't know.
It's hard to watch a Marvel film and not go on a tangent of watching as many as you can. It can't be done. You just can't get enough of it. It's so good.
It's like going to the candy store.
Exactly. Yes, Arch.
I like Jacoby now. I didn't know he was like I didn't know he had my addiction. I didn't.
No, I haven't.
We shared that.
It's bad. It's bad. I try to even with Star Wars, and I'm not even that big of a Star Wars guy, but it's like something about the Jedi. Something about it. Just gotta watch it. I just gotta watch it.
I hear you. Same here. Arch, your thoughts, sir?
Oh, so I likewise, like several of you, I don't remember seeing it for the first time, but I do have an idea of seeing it. And I just remember at the time we'd already gotten past Guardians, which was a brand new concept that I just, at the time, I didn't know how they were going to work some of these into like the bigger picture that they had, because you already knew they've got a big picture. They're not just doing a random movie for no reason. It's not just an Ant-Man movie that's going to have nothing to do with anything. But I was sitting there thinking, watching this trailer going, wait, where is this going to fit in? I know it's going to fit in, but I didn't know where it was going to fit in. So it's really cool to see how that's played out at this point, and to have seen that movie and get little references and little, you realize the way they were going to try to feed some things in. And they actually went much further with it than I ever even expected, but I thought it was really fun. And as I mentioned earlier, I like the fact that they started off establishing this character in the history of Marvel, not just as a brand new concept that had never been out there. Like showing the Triskelion like right up front in the movie, I thought that was just an amazing. Oh, he was a part of the origins of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's just like a really cool tie that just gets him right into the world, and I thought that was fantastic. Just looking at the trailer now, though, I think Jeff kind of mentioned this. They do a great job with their trailers, and I think one of the awesome things is, as he mentioned it, you feel the vibe of the movie. It feels like the movie, and knowing how it played out, you almost can watch the trailer now, and it feels like you just saw the movie again, just in little compact form. Right, I get excited like that about
yeah, me too.
Yeah. I agree completely. Yeah, I mean that trailer. I saw the trailer back in 2014 before it got released in 2015, and I remember thinking this movie is going to be epic because as soon as I knew Paul Rudd was cast as Ant-Man, I was like, I'm all game. And so I mean that trailer, I think is a fantastic trailer. It's always been a really good one. I watched it several times when it first came out, and I've watched it since. But yeah, even just watching it now because it's been a while since I watched it, so. I think it still resonates really well with me because it just makes me love that movie even more. So yeah, completely agree. All right, so moving on. So we had that scene back in 1989. Hank leaves basically saying he resonates. And then all of a sudden that's when we get our introduction to Scott Lang. He's in prison. It's his last day. He's leaving prison. He's been there for 3 years. And basically his prison mates give him kind of like a goodbye by punching him in the face. And he has that kind of like little ritual they do, I guess, as they call it. He gets picked up by Louise and his van, and they have a great conversation. And Louise, basically explains that, his father got deported, his mother's died, but I got the van. I think that's one of the best lines in that beginning sequence. Was absolutely hilarious. That just showed that they were going to be comedy masters in this film right there in that beginning scene. And Michael Pena as that character is just amazing, and he even improved on in Ant-Man the Wasp. So I can't wait to see what he does in Quantumanium. But so that basically go back. Then it pans to him. He's working for Baskin-Robbins now, and there's one person that's there, and he's asking, "Oh, do you have hot pretzels? Can I get a hot pretzel?" But yet it's Baskin-Robbins, it's ice cream, and he's like, "Dude, it's it's ice cream. And you have this great kind of montage there where he's like trying to work there, and then he has that conversation with the boss, finding out that he's an ex-criminal, and he gets let go, and then he goes back, and we're introduced to kind of like his posse that becomes kind of a big part of the film. So my next question for you guys is, what were your thoughts on this little posse group being T.I., David Dashmalin, Michael Pena? Did you guys like that idea of them being a part of the group? Were you impressed by them? Did you like that idea, or did you not like that idea? Basically anything about that whole group and like what your thoughts are. So let's start with you, Loki Mom.
Yeah, I thought they coordinated real well with the film. I mean, they were there for as you say, the comedy relief, and they were all skilled actors. And like you say, Michael Pena, he stands out as just, good natured but clueless, and duplicitous, but wouldn't harm a fly type guy. And the other guys, and he needs a crew, and they factor in about midway through the film where they actually come in. They have their chance at redemption too, because I think that's sort of the theme of the film. It's which has been so much a part of Marvel. I mean, it's film after film after film. They talk about it. So you've got two redemption arcs going on, and for Paul Rudd, he's the good thief. He's not a bad guy, but he will do things that are against the law and against society and against what we consider moral. And but he does it for his first thing was he did his whistleblower to blow the lid on this rotten company, but of course he went about it the wrong way. So he winds up in prison. So now here's his chance at redemption. And there's another gentleman off in the distance who is manipulating things right up to that point.
Okay. Thank you. How about you, Jacoby?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think they were good. I mean, Michael Pena is like one of my favorite lower level actors, man. A lot of the movies he's been in, but definitely T.I., he was funny. What was the other guy's name? He was real funny though. I really
David Dashmalin.
Okay, yeah, I like how they all kind of meshed, and he kind of did need that team though, and that was his team because he really did. They played a vital part, in their roles in the movie. So yeah, that definitely I like that. I like that whole mesh. Definitely, it was really funny. They were really funny all together. Yes.
Yeah, I agree there. I thought that was a great addition that they added to the film to give us that more of that comedy element, because Paul Rudd being such a comedy king, they knew that they were going to have comedy to film. So why not bring in some people that could be good accessories to that? And these guys proved that, I feel, throughout the whole entire movie. I thought they were a really great addition. Your thoughts, Arch?
Yeah. I just thought they all worked really well together. They're not, major people in the film, but they help move some scenes along, and all three of them are very different characters. So just the way their personalities all play off of each other, and the main cast just works really well. I was thinking this earlier when you mentioned the Baskin Robbins thing. I come from the service industry a little bit on the hotel side, and I just thought that's fantastic. It seems like a ridiculous scene, but anybody that's worked in the service industry long enough, you get stupid questions like that. It'll happen. You just get ridiculous moments like that. And for me personally, having worked and seen stuff like that happen, I'm just like, this is what happens.
100%. Oh my gosh.
You're like, what is going on?
Yeah, 100%. I get that all the time in my field too. So it's those questions are always the best, and that was, I thought, picture perfect of what the industry is like. So I thought they did a good job, just like you said. Jeff, your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I love the ensemble cast is really good. The angle that they took the film, the humor that they injected into it was really cool. It was very refreshing. I think it kind of you could almost kind of connect it a little bit to the Guardians a little bit in a way. You know what I mean? Like that, similar almost. Yeah, I feel like that whole crew of his friends and everything and whatnot, like they really brought something to the table that added something to the movie that helped make it like a unique kind of, the fun, solid movie that it is, that Ant-Man is overall, why it's like, you know, such a big fan favorite, you know, I think for a lot of people.
Agreed, very much so. Yeah. So as we proceed past that scene, we're back to Hank Pym again, and he's visiting Pym Tech, and you know, basically, I think another great line in that film is, "Yeah, I'm not dead." I think that's a great line by him, and he goes in there to basically go and see Darren Cross, when we're introduced to Darren Cross, who ends up becoming Yellow Jacket, and so wonderfully played by what's his name, Corey Stoll. Yeah, and he played a really good villain. I thought he did a good job. And this was a great introduction to this character. They kind of have a great kind of moment, you know, him being kind of like the former apprentice, you know, now he's kind of taken over the, you know, Hank, you know, Pym technology and stuff like that. He's working on something that's similar to Pym. We get this huge kind of introduction into what the Yellow Jacket's going to be. He shows what it is, that he's working on the same thing that's very similar to the Pym particles. And that basically will do the same thing, where they use this as like a weapon, basically. And, you know, Hank, of course, is like, you know, all worried about this. We get introduced to Hope here, and who is beautifully played by Evangelina Lilly. And, you know, I think she was a good choice, too, by Linda Finn, because I think she really brought out a different aspect of, you know, differentiating her from Ant-Man. And I thought that her Wasp character was a really great concept too as well. I thought she did a good job. But we get introduced to all these people really quickly right here. We get a couple new introductions, and we get this introduction to what the Yellow Jacket is and kind of what Pym technology has kind of become since Hank Pym has left. And as we move on throughout, you know, through the film, we have that great moment there, and then we find out what, you know, basically Hank is up to. He decides, you know, he's gonna, you know, try to stop this. You get that kind of feeling in that scene a little bit there. So as the movie moves on, like I said, we get to the point where basically Scott asks, "What is this job?" Because after he's gone to Cassie's birthday party, and basically has like kind of like this bad moment with trying to see his daughter. You know, that's all he wants. He wants to be with his daughter and this and that and stuff like that. And he interacts with the ex-wife and interacts with the new fiance to be, who is super hilarious. What's his name?
Bobby Cannavale.
Yeah, thank you. He is absolutely hilarious, and this was probably one of the first films I've actually thought was his best role. I actually liked this character. It was very different than anything else I've seen, because usually he plays like the dick character, and I think it's fun to see him play kind of like this kind of being nice character, kind of like caring. So it was nice to see him play kind of a different character. So Robbie Cannavale playing that character was really fun to see. But you know, basically he ends up talking to Louise, asking him, "Oh, okay, what's the supposed big hit that he mentioned earlier?" So then we have this like montage of, you know, Luis telling him how he learns about this, you know, what, you know, this job is. And I think that scene is absolutely hilarious. It cracks me up every time watching it. But just like all the montages they use in that, it's just so funny. And just like how Luis explains it is super funny too. But basically they get yeah, exactly. And how you know, eventually they get to the point, it's like, okay, you know, Scott's like, okay, so we have a safe, we have this, let's work with that. And so then that's when they decide, okay, let's do this job. And they get they have montage of them getting all the accoutrement of getting ready for this job. And then they end up showing up at Hank Pym's house. And so once they go in, you know, Scott starts doing his thing. He finds out that there's a finger reader that he has to get down to the basement. And so he figures out this cool thing, which I think this is really inventive, him using the glue, the tape, and that key ring thing to make that thing. That was like super cool. And I was like blown away by that the first time I saw this in theater. I was like, that's a really cool idea. You know, that's good to know. Thank you, Marvel, for showing us this. And I'm like, maybe this could be used in real life. Maybe, I don't know, but in case I need to break in somebody, you know. Anyways, but so we have him finally break in, and he finds out that it's an old safe, and he mentions that it's the same metal that was used for the Titanic. And I think that's that's kind of a funny reference to just have thrown in there. I thought that was kind of cool. But then he basically messes with it so that it basically blows up and out, and that's when he gets introduced to the suit. So my next question for you guys is, what was your thoughts when you saw this suit? And I think it's kind of funny that he mentions that it's like, he looks at it and he's like, he thinks it's a motorcycle suit. I think that's absolutely funny. So what was your guys' first thoughts when you saw this first interpretation, live action interpretation of the suit? Starting with you, Jacoby.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I was like, nah, I didn't think the suit was really all that, man, until I found out what it was really capable of and really getting to see what it does. But I just have to say this. Did y'all see how Paul Rudd jumped over that fence and climbed that wall so quick? I was like, this guy here is, yeah, Paul Rudd's one of my favorite guys too. But yeah, that's what I thought, really honestly. But that Ant-Man suit is a badass suit, man. I'm not saying it's on the same level as Iron Man, but it's a badass suit. But I definitely didn't think nothing of it when I saw it. So,
thank you. Loki's mom.
Well, I'm not impressed with it. I don't think it's an attractive suit at all. I think it fits the fact that it was supposedly made in the 1980s when fashion was really at a low point in this country. So I can maybe that's why it looks so bad. But yeah, the whole thing, I just really didn't like the whole Ant-Man suit and the amber eyes, whatever. But but that's just a personal thing. I mean, I can live with it.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. How about you, Jeff?
Oh, I mean, I thought it was pretty comic book accurate, and they did a pretty good job with it being comic book accurate, and that's pretty much all. I mean, it serves its purpose. There's nothing like enthralling about the way it looks or anything like that, but it does the job, and it does look pretty cool, I think. I've enjoyed seeing him in the suit like over the years and everything. Hey, he was really good in freaking Captain America, Civil War too. I just want to mention that, like, he was really good in that.
Thank you. I agree. He was good in Civil War, which is actually next week's film, by the way. So don't forget that.
Oh my God.
Anyway, so Mr. Arch, your thoughts, sir, on the suit?
Well, it's function over form. I mean, think of Hank Pym. He's not Tony Stark. Tony Stark is the guy that would build the sexy suit. Hank is just building function over form. It wouldn't make any sense if it looked great. It's supposed to look functional. It's supposed to just be function. So, I think it looks extreme. As Jeff said, I think it looks like very comic book accurate. It struck me as like, wow, they really went for this suit. I thought it was great. But let's see. You mentioned this is a little off topic. You mentioned Lewis's little speech, and I just got to throw out that is still one of the most memorable. People were quoting that for months, like after that film came out. Just random people. Your grandma was like quoting this thing. It's like it just really worked, man. That whole thing worked. And while I'm thinking about it, because I was going to mention this earlier, this film does have a lot of comedy, but I think with almost all the Marvel films, and especially this one, the comedy is all like really, it's dudes hanging out, man. These guys are just cutting up and goofing off, and it's all like real, normal, and realistic, and what people would normally say. It's not stuff thrown in there just for the sake of being funny. It's just dudes hanging out and being cool, man. That's what it is, and I think it works.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. Yes, most definitely. There's definitely a lot of comedy in a lot of the Marvel films. But I felt like in this one just thought it had a lot accentuated that very much. But that's just like you were saying, because of it's like the dudes just talking and people being friends and stuff like that. So I completely agree there, most definitely. And not to go off topic a little bit here, but just because we just mentioned Civil War a little bit. Did you feel that the change of the look of the helmet or the suit for Civil War was better than this version in Ant-Man 1? Did you guys think that was an upgrade that they did, or did you think it doesn't look as good as this one? Just to kind of get an idea, about your your feelings about.
I like the Ant-Man one better. Actually, you know what? So I don't mind the change or anything like that, but I have always been curious why they did it. I never quite understood what the point of changing it was. But I slightly preferred the Ant-Man one, but I mean the Civil War one's fine. It's not a big deal. I just never really got why.
Yeah, it didn't make sense to me neither. I like like you said, the comic book original version of that Ant-Man suit is what it needs to be. So yeah, really wasn't that much of a. I'm going Ant-Man.
Yeah, I agree too. I think the Ant-Man one looked better. I thought too. So when I saw that they had changed it in Civil War, I was kind of like, why did they do that? I don't think they didn't need to. Yeah. Right. I thought that what Peyton Reed brought in the first Ant-Man was a perfect look. So I thought it was kind of interesting they changed it up. I totally agree. Anyway, so moving on. So we have that happen. He finds a suit, he takes it home, and he starts, kind of messing with it. He hooks it up to a thing and stuff like that in the bathroom, seeing what it's all about. And then he officially fully puts it on and then starts messing with it. And that's when he kind of gets his first calling as Ant-Man, kind of. And he goes through this kind of montage of, wearing the suit. He becomes super tiny. He goes through like a disco that happening down below. He falls through the tub. You almost think he's going to get stomped on when the people are dancing. He ends up, basically riding like this roller coaster ride almost, if you think about it, and ends up popping up on top of a car. And what better cameo in a film than to have an SNL alumni pop up in that scene in that car, which, of course, his name is escaping me right now, but he is absolutely one of my favorite all-time of the classics from the 70s era. And that was hilarious. And he pops up and he fully extends back to normal size, and it dents in the car hood on top and stuff. And I think that's hilarious. He's like, what the? And that was perfect timing and so fun. But I thought that was a great kind of introduction to kind of his first experience with the suit. And of course, at the time, he's kind of talking to Hank Pym a little bit. At the time, he's like, hello, Scott, kind of deal. And he's kind of like, what's going on? And he decides, no, I don't want the suit. And he decides he's going to take it back to Hank Pym's house. And that's unfortunately when he gets arrested because Hope decides to call the cops on him. So then we go to the jail scene, and he has kind of an interaction with Robbie Kent again. And he's there, and he's like, I'm back where I was. This is not good. He's having all these doubts and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, one of the cops tells him, yeah, you have a visitor. Oh, it's your lawyer. And Hank ends up being Hank Pym. So this scene right here is kind of the first interaction I feel that we get to see how the ants work, how the insects that he's able to use work. And, he basically, Scott goes in there and he starts talking to Hank, and Hank says, basically has this really cool kind of interesting conversation with him saying, I believe people have second chances. I believe that they're given these chances. So you have two options. Either you can, go back to your cell and wait for instructions, or do this. But you get that first kind of interaction. You see the ants hiding out on the monitor, on the camera that's in the room, and you're like, you kind of look at that and you're like, that first really interaction of seeing the ants work for Ant-Man. And so, of course, Paul Rudd's character, Scott Lang, decides to go back to the cell and wait for instructions. And he's in there, and all of a sudden he sees the ants coming in, and all of a sudden, boom, the suit's there again. And he puts it on, and then he has basically another kind of interaction with the suit again for the first time. And we have this great montage of him escaping the thing, talking to Hank at the same time. And you have this great conversation about, you're off balancing number 247. And he's like, you named them? And he's like, no, it's a number, Scott. You know how many ants there are in the world? And he has this conversation almost, and you can kind of see where this is going, that, eventually Scott's going to name this ant. And, eventually he does. The ant, names it Anton, which is absolutely hilarious. I think that's a great portion of this film, too, is that he keeps naming the ants as he gets connected with them. Excuse me. And so basically you have this great montage going on, and you have them talking and stuff like that. You have that great going, and then all of a sudden, the ants trying to fly up in the sky, and Scott's like, I think I'm going to black out. I'm going to black out. And then he blacks out and starts falling. And then all of a sudden you see the ant go down to catch him. And then it kind of just blacks out. And then he ends up back at Hank Pym's house. And that's kind of when he first gets introduced to Hope and their interaction there. And so that scene is kind of interesting too, because you get kind of the vibes of what Hope, kind of like how she's thinking and kind of how she's processing these things, and like how she's kind of like feeling at the moment, because of course she called the cops on him and everything. And he has, have you been watching me sleep? And she's like, yeah, because the last time you were here, you stole something.
Right.
And you're kind of like, okay, let's pump the brakes there, lady. Okay, I know I did something wrong, And then all of a sudden he gets kind of introduced to the bull ants on the floor, and he's like, because he wants to get down and walk away. And so talking about the bull ants there, you get kind of a little science info there about bull ants. If they bite you, it's like being bit like a bullet. And I think that's really info right there. I think that was fun. So then, basically goes in and he goes and sees Hank, and they're all sitting around and they start having a conversation. And, basically Hank starts to explain a little bit of the things, and, that they need his help, and that's why he helped them escape and all this kind of stuff. So my next question for you guys is, what did you guys think about that kind of that conversation they had, kind of the information they explained there a little bit about, giving second chances and stuff like that? And just how do you feel that scene filled out? Was it do you feel it was a good portion of the film? Do you think it fit there? Do you think they needed that, or they could have just gone to the next scene, which is, kind of Hank going down into layer and explaining to Scott exactly what they're going to do? So starting with you, Jacoby, sorry.
I mean, it could have been a scene. I mean, certain scenes in the movie definitely needs this part, but if you're going to the next scene, you're going to explain exactly. I think we could have left that little part out. But I did like the interaction with Hope, though, because Hope is jealous. She was jealous at first of Scott Lang, because she felt like she should be wearing the Ant-Man suit, because that's exactly what she wants. But she gets her own suit. But definitely, I think they could have kept that little, just that part, not the part with Hope coming in and Scott meeting her and all that. So for sure.
Great, thank you. I agree. Loki's mom.
Well, I thought it was pretty much probably the most important scene in the movie. At least for me, I think right there, I think what I've been talking about, the theme of this meta theme of redemption that runs through the sagas. He literally says it right there, and and I didn't write all the words down, but then of course Scott Ant-Man comes back with a funny line, and I think that diffused the seriousness of it. So I thought it was well played. I'll say this about the overall picture. This is a very well directed movie, and it has fantastic editing. I mean, they don't waste an ounce of film on this, and that's always been one of my pet peeves, when they kind of draw scenes out and they have too many dramatic pauses and all that, and it never does let down. I mean, even in the softer moments, it moves right along. You go from one thing to the next, and it's a complex story. There's a lot going on in this movie, and they have to explain a lot in a very short amount of time, and they really get it done. And I think that was one of the things that impressed me the most as far as how the movie was constructed. But yeah, the idea that everybody should deserve second chances, and and that's certainly something that plays into the Judeo-Christian ethic, as a so-called Judeo-Christian ethic that we have in the Western part of the world anyway. It plays into that. So yeah, I think it really was real played scene, and like you say, in the whole sequence with the ants, and showing him how ants are. In our world, we think of ants as just being nothing, of just being these little protoplasm with protein, and it's got some little electrical brain, whatever, and they're just running around automatons. But perhaps they have their own intelligence that we don't understand, because, as Pim points out, they hunt, they farm, they build communities, they build structures and everything like that. So it's a chance of looking at the micro world closer and maybe being a little bit more appreciative of it. And that movie, I think, in a very fantastical way, brings that to the audience.
Agreed. Thank you. I agree there. Arch, your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I'll just be real quick. I think every scene kind of adds its own little thing. As Loki's mom was saying, it's really well directed and trim. But so when he's in the prison, it's not like you could just cut this out and just go to another scene necessarily, because what they do there is they establish Hank's need. They establish, as Loki's mom was saying, like this idea of redemption. But they also do like other little physical things, like it's one of the first times they display like a creative use of this shrinking technology. They stuck the suit in and just popped it out of seemingly nothing. So that, and they've gotten more and more creative with how they use that power as well throughout the entire series. But you need little moments like that. Each scene does more than one thing, which is kind of what you want to do when you're making movies like this. You want to get mileage out of each scene that you're doing. And then the one with his control of the ants as well, of course. But the one with Hope, you have to have Hope in there, kind of introducing herself in a one-on-one sort of way with Scott, because you're trying to establish that relationship as well. So it would play a little bit different if he just got up, walked out, and Hank and Hope are both sitting at the dining table, because then you don't have that one-on-one moment. You kind of need that to make sure that there's this connection that's kind of budding and growing between these two characters. So yeah, I thought that whole sequence is great. I think I agree with Loki's mom that every scene has value and adds and keeps moving this movie along. It's very rewatchable. It's one of the most rewatchable films in the series. I think it's just fun start to finish.
Agreed. Jeff, your thoughts, sir?
I didn't feel like there was any scenes or any aspect of any part of the film that needed to be, that they could have just chopped off or whatever, and that would have done anything better for the film. I think that, like everybody else already said, the dynamic between Paul Rudd and Evangelina Lilly, and with Hope as Scott, is like an important dynamic in the film. And their relationship together, as they develop together, like their chemistry and everything, and their dynamic is really important and intrinsic to the value of the film. Like it's an important aspect. As far as like I love all the scenes where they have Hank Pym involved. I like all that stuff. And the stuff with the ants is really great, So I would have kept all of everything that they had going on there. I thought it was an enjoyable part of the film.
Thank you. All right, yeah, I would agree. So after that scene, basically that's when Hank's like, "Okay, follow me, Scott," because basically Scott asked, he's like, "So who are you? Who is that? And what am I doing here? Can I go back to prison?" Basically. And so he takes him down into the lair and he explains to him what's going on and basically, what he wants, basically him to do. And at the same time, Scott Lang's kind of like, "Okay, why don't we call the Avengers? They would be the best to do this." And, he explains that I don't want my technology in the hands of a Stark, and he goes on a little bit about that, how he doesn't like that. And, he doesn't want it, and, basically, that they got to work together. And that's basically when, Scott agrees and he starts his training. And so we have like a good solid a good portion of the film now is about Scott training, and he interacts with the different ants, the bullet ants, the electrical ants, and so forth. And you kind of get a little bit of history lesson of what these ants are capable of doing too. At the same time, you have some funny montage of him getting scared of the ants and popping up full size and stuff like that. You get some good interactions, with Hope and him. They're fighting. Is that one scene where they're like fighting? It's like, so you can, basically Hope's explaining, at your small size, you have basically superhuman strength, but if you hit it just wrong, you can either kill a person or you can give them a love tap. And he's like, "I know how to fight. I was in prison for 3 years." And she's like, "Oh, show it." And he does his thing. And then she's like, "Oh," and then he's like, "Oh, you show me." And she hits him right in the face and he goes down and you're just kind of laughing at him because he gets hit so easily by her. And she's like, "That's a hit." And so you have all that great interaction going on. They have a few other moments going on there, between Hank and Hope there, where she's like, "Oh, we really don't need him. We don't have time, Darren's getting closer to this. We see her going back to Pimtech a few times during this montage too. Seeing what Darren is up to. He's doing tests and like that. He's like working with these lambs. And eventually he finally at one point, he does eventually make a lamb get small. He like has discovered how to do the PIM particle basically. And so, basically, as the montage moves on, we get to a point where, basically Hank and Hope have kind of like a falling out. She walks out to the car and is in there because she kind of like takes the ear thing and like makes the ants do too much. And like she's getting dark. And so basically Scott follows her out there and they have kind of a little conversation. And she basically helps him to learn how to use it, and he basically learns how to control the ants at that point. And so we get finally our the end of the montage of him basically training, and then that's when he has his first official mission as Ant-Man, and that's when he goes and has to go to the Avengers compound and get a part that they need for their heist, basically. And that's when he comes in contact with none other than Mr. Falcon, Mr. Anthony Mackie. So this next question for you guys is, what were you guys' thoughts on all of a sudden Anthony Mackie popping up as Falcon in this scene? And what did you think about that fight sequence between him and Ant-Man? Starting with you, Loki's mom.
Oh yeah, it was great. I wasn't expecting it. For any of the Avenger characters to show up, but then that brought in the connection certainly for the next movie, which is coming down the line, or the next few movies actually. So it was a necessary insert and cameo, if you want to call it that. But it was needed in it, and it wasn't out of place. I mean, he was breaking into a Stark facility, so why wouldn't one of these guys show up to defend it or whatever? And it was, handled well. And basically it was I would just say it was a basic scene, bridge scene.
Okay. Thank you. How about you, Jacoby?
Cool fight scene. I like it definitely. Ant-Man and Falcon fighting each other was hilarious because Anthony Mackie was talking noise. Paul Rudd was talking noise, and they were just going at it. And I just like it, man. Ant-Man is just, like I say, he's vital, man. The more when I watched the movie, I realized how vital he really is a part of the Avengers group. So yeah, that definitely was a great fight scene. I think I like the little action scene between them two. They kind of mesh well with each other, breaking off on the comedy with each other too. Don't tell Captain about this neither.
Yep, that's a great line. Yeah, but what were your thoughts when you all of a sudden saw that he was in the movie? Like he pops up there. Did you?
Oh yeah. I was actually kind of surprised about that. Actually, I didn't think that he would show up. I thought it could have been somebody else, but I was actually kind of surprised that I saw him there.
Awesome. Jeff, your thoughts, sir?
There was a good choice on their part to add Falcon to the film. I love Falcon. I love him as Captain America now, and he's just an awesome character. He was really like a really major part of Captain America, the Winter Soldier. He's like undervalued, I think, for like his role in that. And as far as him popping up, yeah, it was surprising, but it was like really good connective tissue, like your typical MCU Marvel connective tissue, you know what I mean? And that was kind of like a time where the Avengers was kind of in flux. So, it was interesting to like see the Falcon as representative of the Avengers.
And what about the fight sequence? Did you like the fight sequence? Do you think it was a good fight sequence?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, like Jacoby said, they had really good banter together. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Falcon's really funny. He really is. Like, he's really like, he's got his own comedic deal like that he kind of does. You know what I'm saying? The fight scene was very lighthearted and it was cool.
Awesome. Arch, your thoughts, sir?
I'll just echo what everybody else has said. It was a really fun scene. It added stuff to the film and to future films in a connective way that you weren't expecting, and I thought that was great. And just the one thing I'll add in addition to all that is that it's just really amazing to me to look back and remember people thinking of Anthony Mackie at the time as being this kind of tertiary, C-level, D-level, whatever you want to call it, like Avenger member who wasn't, was kind of part of the team, but just a friend of a friend sort of guy. To see how far he's come as just an actor and his character in progressing in this series. I mean, kudos to him just as a person, as an actor, but also that's the power of this series. You see it with like a character like Wanda too, and like how much they can grow these characters over a long period of time. Versus watching this series is so cool to me because I just always think back to when we'd get 2-3 films and they'd kind of be done and start over with something new. And it's just so cool to watch these guys grow over like 12, 14 years and longer for some of these guys now.
Absolutely.
It's amazing. And Anthony Mackie's one of the biggest examples of that. He's really, I mean, think about him like when he debuted in like Winter Soldier, and he's just a guy Cap happened to run into who's just this really cool veteran, and now he's Captain America. I mean, it's this huge arc. It's amazing, man. It really is.
I completely agree. I mean, Anthony Mackie's character has definitely gone from that kind of side player to being a big player.
Right.
And I honestly think they did that on purpose. I think that they debuted him in Winter Soldier because they knew he was going to be the next Captain America, because they were going to try to start following the comic books, I feel. And I think that Marvel has had this idea in their head this whole time, and just, because of how strategically good they are at placing things, it just has fallen into place just properly. So I think this has been their the whole time, and that Anthony Mackie has been a huge player in Marvel's, range of what they wanted to do from the get-go. I think when he signed on and he was going to become the next Captain America. That's just my thoughts on that. But yeah, I agree. I think
they just didn't tell him. They just didn't tell him because he didn't know until Endgame when Chris Evans told him.
Yeah. That's how Marvel works, That's how they do things. That's how they do things. They don't tell everybody everything. They want people to kind of stew on it, and then all of a sudden, like, okay, yes, you're going to do that. It's kind of how they do things, I feel. But anyway, so moving on. so we had the fight at the Avengers facility, and we have that great one-liner right at the end where Anthony Mackie says, "Don't tell Captain about this."
Right.
And I think that's such a great line. Just like Jacoby said, I think it's such a great line. And they get back to Hank's house again, and Hank is kind of berating Scott, like, "Oh, this is messing up this and that and that." And then all of a sudden he pulls out the generator in his pocket. He's like, "I got it," basically, and puts it down. And he's like, "No way," and then he's like, "Good job. He's like, "Did you compliment me?" And so like that great banter there is really fun. And then that's all of a sudden when Darren pops up at the house and, basically telling, Hank that, I want you to come to this next, basic meeting thing going on that I'm having and show you what's going on with, PIM technology. And they have kind of like a little bit of banter, and he asked him, why did you pick me? And then why did you leave me, basically? And Pim's like, "I saw too much of myself in you," et cetera, et cetera. And then Darren leaves, and then, after they come, goes back to them, and they're talking a little bit, and then he calls Hope, and he's talking to Hope on the phone while she's still at the house. And, saying, Hank's still giving me this contempt and la la la. Thank you for being this, and still, giving you kind of a hint that he still doesn't know that she's a part of what's going on, but we all know he knows. And so basically goes on, and they're like, "Okay, we need to get going on this and, move forward." And so then that's when we end up going to the PIM tech again, and they're going to pull out this plot. And so they need additional assistance. So that's when Scott Lang pulls in those great friends that we talked about earlier to be a part of this, end sequence. So we get to PIM Tech, and they're going in, they're going to have the ceremony, talk about the Yellow Jacket and all this stuff, and we see all the other kind of counterparts going on. Luis disguises himself as a PIM Tech guard, and basically goes in and gets into the area where to shut off the main so that Scott can go in through the water main to get up into the thing, because of all the extra precautions that Darren has decided to put in place at PIM Tech. And so he takes out the guard, and he has like kind of that funny banter when he says stuff there, and then he hits him, which is super funny. And then as it goes on, we basically have that kind of like confrontation in the room, and they all start fighting. Hank gets shot. And that's when Scott goes after Darren, of course, after he, steals the Ant-Man suit. And we have this huge, basically, battle sequence where they go into the helicopter and have all the kind of this, like, some great music playing there, too. The Cure is playing in that scene, too, which is really fun, I thought. And I think that's a great little thing. If you actually look at the cell phone, it says it's The Cure in the song title. I forget what it says exactly what the song title is, but it says The Cure. And so it's like it's playing and stuff as they're fighting on the helicopter and stuff like that. And they end up falling down into a backyard where people are having a barbecue, basically. They fight a little bit and stuff like that. Right. And then eventually Ant-Man's able to turn Yellowjacket small, hit him with a ping pong paddle, I think it is, and he goes flying into a bug zapper and supposedly he's dead. And that's when all of a sudden the cops show up and take Scott into custody again. And then, of course, it pans back and it shows that Yellowjacket's not dead. So my question for you guys is that in that kind of that sequence there at Pimtech, we have all this crazy stuff going on. We have all this action sequence to go. We have some great one-liners. Everyone that's involved, the friends and stuff like that Scott uses to help out with the heist and all that kind of stuff. My overall question for you guys is what did you guys think of that sequence running up to that kind of battle to where Scott thinks he's killed Yellowjacket at the end of that, basically like that fight sequence? What is your thoughts? Starting with you, Loki's mom.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of jump a little ahead of that because I got to leave in about 5 minutes. So I'll just kind of wrap up my thoughts about the film overall, if that's okay. Yep. One of the other things that runs this all through it is this notion of science and how it has been used for so many bad things, and even in our own life, we're sort of feeling that. We've been reminded of that here just recently. I won't go into details of that, but here Hank Pym has this fantastic technology that he has used for good. I mean, it was used, I guess he was apparently a part of S.H.I.E.L.D. at some point, or S.H.I.E.L.D. contacted him and he worked for them to disarm an ICBM. And of course, it was vital and that saved the world. And that probably is a movie in and of itself that maybe they could make down the line somewhere. Maybe a TV show about a young Hank Pym. Maybe that the original Ant-Man. I'll just throw that out there. But yeah, and so the danger then becomes he won't start to have it, and of course they can't let Hydra have it. So that's what they have to go in and take this down for. That's the real reason. But Hank Pym is a borderline mad scientist himself. He's not. It's not. He could probably wind up doing something worse with it. We'll see what down the road how maybe. It factors a lot into the next phase of the saga is up to Endgame, but because he invented the technology to go through to the quantum realm, and then and even in real life, we're finding out so many new things scientifically about our world and everything, and yet at the same time, I think we're running from knowledge and running from advances in technology, and maybe for good reason. Maybe the fear is justified, even if the results of the fear are not all that great. But I think the fear is genuine, and I think that's one of the things that Marvel has tapped into and what has made them so successful, because they're giving us a space where we can play out our fears in a fantasy way that's not going to cause too much trauma to ourselves if we actually would go read a book about Hiroshima, or go read why concentration camps, or why they did this, why they just absolutely perverted and bastardized science, in the name of evil. So I think that's a very important thing. And guys, I appreciate it. I'm going to have to check off, and I'll look forward to what you guys say when this winds up on YouTube.
All right,
Renee.
Thank you, Renee. You have a great night, and thank you for being on the panel tonight.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. And guys out there watching this live stream or watch this on YouTube afterwards, you can find Renee, Loki's mom, on SakarFreeforms.net. And part of the podcast champions. Sometimes she guest hosts on as a part of the panel over there too on the podcast champions. So definitely check her out there too. She's a great asset to our panel. So before we move on a little bit further, let's finish this round of questions here. Jacoby, your thoughts on that whole sequence there, sir?
I actually think the sequence it kind of it led out real well into going into him being the Yellow Jacket. What's the I forgot his name, but the guy being the Yellow Jacket.
Darren Cross.
Yeah, Darren Cross. Okay, I've seen him in a lot of movies too, so I watched too.
Oh, you mean the actor?
Oh,
yeah, yeah. I definitely think that the sequence was great. I think they all ran into it well. Hank getting saved by Scott Lang, the three guys being there from the beginning, the funny guys. Those guys are funny. Like Michael Pena, funny. T.I., he's funny actually. I didn't think he was going to be actually. I've seen a lot of T.I. movies and didn't think that was going to be a good role for him. But all in all, I thought it was a good sequence. It all kind of meshed well going into that last sequence when they get to the house. So definitely.
I agree. I think one of the best parts or best scenes is where Michael Pena's like, Scott, you okay? Did I save you, bro? And he's like, and he pops like, yes, thank you, Louise. And he's like, are we the good guys? We good guys now? Yep. Awesome.
Right.
I think that's so hilarious. I love that scene. Anything Michael Pena is in this movie was like priceless to me. He was on point and hilarious, and he made that scene even funnier. And Paul Rudd's expressions while he was like explaining things too is like on point too. So like that whole mix and mesh of them two just worked really well together. It was a great dynamic there. Jeff, your thoughts, sir?
Corey Stoll looked really good as the Yellow Jacket. The Yellow Jacket was a dope villain. I mean, he looked really sinister in his suit and everything and whatnot. Like he really looked really cool. With the energy blasts and everything and whatnot. Great fight scene. Great action. All the shrinking and like unshrinking and whatnot, like with the fighting and everything, like in action, like together was really cool. All the ant stuff was good again. Yeah, that was pretty much it.
Nice. Thank you. Arch, your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like really great moments in there. I think one of the ones that really stands out to me is when Darren, Corey Stoll's character, is in the bathroom talking to that guy who's challenging him, and then he just uses that little shrinking gun or whatever and turns him into the puddle of goo. Like you just realize how psychotic this guy is. Or the other scene where he does something similar to the sheep he just doesn't care. Calls for the next one. I'm an animal guy. I got a couple pets. I love animals. I rescue turtles off the side of the road and stuff like that. It's just like I like animals, and just to be able to turn a sheep into goo and just move on as though this thing doesn't matter to you is just psychotic to me. Like I think they did a really good job with that. And the way Corey plays this character, you could tell he's like unhinged. Like he feels unhinged and like he's just about to lose it at any time. I love it. It's I don't know. I just thought that was really cool. Then more of on this more spectacle side, the way they shot things like the suitcase fight where there's lasers coming out of it on the plane and they're hitting the pilots and stuff. I like the way they're falling down and their Quadrophenia song the Cure was playing and you hear that playing as they're fighting around the disc that's flipping. Just all of that just looked so good and it was just so much fun to watch. It was just a really fun film. Yeah, that's it. I'll just leave it at that for now.
All right. Yeah. One part I forgot to mention earlier is the scene where basically Hank finally tells Hope what really happened to her mother. Kind of passed that off a little bit there. But yeah, we have that scene. That's a part of basically the montage leading up to this. Basically he finally explains to her after her and Scott have come back in after they have their talk in the car. And he says what basically happens to her mom finally and gives her the full truth and basically, I didn't tell you to protect you, and they have that kind of brace moment and then Scott's like, this is a great time for building and he's like, oh, I ruined it, didn't I? You go from this like really kind of like sentimental scene and then him cracking that joke was just like super funny. and just a great scene, I thought. Did anybody else enjoy that scene or didn't think it was?
That was vital. That was vital because it kind of like opens up the quantum realm to us. Like nobody knew what that was up until that point, anyways. In the phases, anyways. I didn't know what it was, and when I seen it, I was like, oh, good to know. Because I didn't know that. I didn't know that that's where she was really, actually at. She wasn't actually dead. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely.
And also, as I was mentioning earlier, it takes care of two things at once because you're also covering like some really deep character stuff there that like Hope has had to grow up with the loss of her mother, and this is the very big character moment too. But like you said, it also opens up a story element of the quantum realm, like kind of at the same time. So they're like the economy of stuff here is like really good.
Man, yeah, deep, real deep.
Any thoughts on that, Jeff?
I think everybody. I mean, everybody else pretty much said what there is to say about that whole thing. I mean, it was an introduction again to the quantum realm, and that was the important aspect of it. I think that was the most important part of it, and it was cool. It was visually, it was very cool to see.
Very much so. I mean, if you think about it, this was actually the first film that really talked a lot about the quantum realm. We got a lot of talk about it. I mean, it was kind of briefly mentioned in other films, but this one really is the introduction to the quantum realm and kind of that new phase for Marvel at the time. Getting into that mystic arts era and the quantum realm itself. We got that kind of around this time is really kind of pushing the MCU into a different, area. And so I think it's kind of interesting that, out of all characters, Ant-Man's the one they decide to really start to talk about this quantum realm with Ant-Man, which I thought was really interesting and fun. So like I said before, we have that sequence there. We think Yellow Jacket's dead, but he's actually not. Then all of a sudden on the ride, we have that kind of scene in the car with Scott, trying to escape from the cops after he's been taken again, of course, by Robbie Cannavale. And he ends up doing that, escaping. And then we go back to Cassie's house, and Yellow Jacket's there, and he's there basically going to, take her to try to get to Scott. And then Scott pops up, and then we have that kind of great action sequence there where they're battling out in the miniatures, and we have that funny scene where like the little train is running and then it hits into Yellow Jacket, and you think, oh, this could be a big explosion. All of a sudden it's like, boop. And it's hilarious. Like every time that scene happens, I just laugh so hard at that. I'm like, yeah, that's just funny. That's funny because it's like this little toy, and like even when Scott throws the little toy train, Thomas the Train over to the window and it pops down, you think it's gonna be a big bang or something. All of a sudden it's like, doot, doot. You're just cracking up at that. And this is such a great scene too, because I think they use all those elements so well in this film. Like the visual effects in this scene were so on point for 2015, and you really think that he's miniaturized down into that area of Cassie's room, battling where this train and stuff is and stuff like that. And they have this really great action sequence going on. And of course, during this action sequences, things get smaller and some things get enlarged. Like the ant gets enlarged, and the Thomas the Train gets enlarged, goes through the roof of the house. Have this great battle sequence, and then Robbie Cannavale shows up, and Ant-Man and him are still battling, and Robbie Cannavale's trying to help. And that's when Scott realizes, oh, I gotta go down to the molecules in order to get inside the Yellow Jacket to stop it. And he basically sets off his belt thing. And that's when he's able to go subatomic and go inside and, basically destroys Yellow Jacket, which I was really surprised they decided to just kill him off. Like they didn't just have him stop or something so that we could have him come back at some further point. Cause some of the villains, they just get right away in the first film usually, but I thought I would have liked to see Corey Stoll come back and play that character. Did he go into the
quantum realm though? Isn't that what or did he get crushed when? I mean, I might be jumping a little too ahead, but I know when he disappeared at the end, was that like a crushing him scene, or was that him going into the quantum realm? Because that's my whole question. Remember at the end when they killed? Is that like a death move? Was that death?
Or I thought it was death, but he could have gone to the quantum realm. Arch, any thoughts on that?
Right. My take was that he died, and the real reason I think that is like parts of him were shrinking at a time, like just like his arm. Down. He was like screaming in agony, and then So I mean, I suppose anything's possible with these things.
Right,
but
yeah, MCU,
Yeah, so yeah, I thought that was like really cool. And they have them basically.
Because that was almost kind of like something from, remember those dark elves were using in Thor 2?
Yeah.
So that's what I kind of, but you know, I don't know. I mean, I could think Death too, but I can also think like, even though he's getting crushed, we're dealing with MCU. It's like multiverse, so he could be coming back from somewhere.
He could, yeah, exactly, yeah. So I'm hoping they bring him back at some point, maybe, and we'll get to see him again, because I thought he was fantastic as the character. But yeah, him getting sucked up like that was so cool. I thought the visual effects were really done there well. And then all of a sudden it pops and like it's that little speck, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's where paulrudd is now in the quantum realm. And so we have basically after he supposedly has been killed and he's in the quantum realm, he's trying to figure out how to get out of there, and we kind of see all this amazing like portions of the quantum realm. We get to see all these cool effects and stuff like that, what the quantum realm looks like, because this is really our first like real look at the quantum realm too, because they're giving us all this interesting looks and what the quantum realm looks like. And I'm sure in the comics they kind of visualized it a little bit at the time, in those comics and so forth. But if you're a Marvel fan coming in that has never read any of the books or any of the comic books or whatever, you might not have any image to go by. And so I thought they did a good job of giving us that really cool, like what it could be like. And so, eventually he figures out to use one of the enlarging discs that Hank has created, puts it into the belt, and he's able to basically resize himself up to come from being subatomic and back into the real world. And he all of a sudden pops back up in Cassie's room, and he has won. And so they have kind of, casting him hug, and they're like, "I love you, Peanut," this kind of thing. And then Robbie Kendall going, "Dude, there's a hole in the house." It was absolutely hilarious. And that was like so stinking funny. It's so hilarious. And so as the movie basically progresses, it basically ends off, they have saved the day. Robbie Cannibal has now kind of become Scott's friend, and he's helping him with his, problems and stuff like that with the thing. And they sit around the table and they're having a nice little discussion. Then we also have the scene where, Hank's back home after he's been shot, and Scott talked to him and kind of explained to him what it was, how he, what it was like in the quantum realm, but he really didn't remember how he got out, to help him figure out how to get, Hope's mother back. And, and they kind of leave it off, and then Evangeline is like, "Oh, I'll walk you out, Scott." And they go off, and he goes to open the door, and they're making out. And he's like, "When did this happen?" And you're just kind of cracking up going like, apparently it happens recently. Who knows? It could have been when they were training. Who knows? And he's like, and then Scott's like, "Oh man, you can't just grab me and kiss me like that and stuff like that. Naughty, and he like walks away, and then Hank's like, "You're full of shit, Scott." It's absolutely priceless. Oh my God. It's so stinking funny. And basically that's how the movie ends, and it goes to the credits. And so a question there for you guys, not the final question, but another question for you guys. What did you guys think of that portion of the film, like that final montage kind of there of all that went on? Did you feel it had good closure? Did you feel that it made the film whole? Just what were your thoughts on those final sequences there? Starting with you, Arch.
Yeah, I think it all worked really well. I'm trying to think. There's so much going on there. I'm trying to like condense it down into like an idea. But I mean, Hank felt fulfilled. He felt like he'd accomplished his mission. Scott felt accepted. Evangeline felt like, she'd been recognized and played an important part, because we haven't really talked about it, but that was her major arc throughout the entire thing. Is like the big moment about him revealing his, Hank revealing to Hope about her mom, was not just what happened to her mom, but why he's protected her, why he didn't let her in the Ant-Man suit, why, and it helped her get over this feeling that she'd been passed over. Like, she at least understood why he'd done it. And it was cool because he kind of let her into the club, and rightfully so, because she's a badass. And
he's a badass.
there's just lots of great moments like that where you feel like people got what they deserved. Like you felt like Darren got what he deserved. You felt like the crew was all taken care of. Just there's so much going on there. You felt the family dynamic between Scott and Cassie and his ex-wife and even her new husband, like all was working well. Like just it all felt so good. There's so many character moments going on, and I think they all paid off nicely.
Thank you. I would agree. Jeff, any thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I mean, again, like Arch already covered, it's a big swath of the film, but I thought that the whole romantic angle with Scott and Hope was like a positive. It was a good way to end the movie. You know what I mean? I felt like they the end credits and like introducing, having Hank introduce Hope to like the Wasp suit and all that and everything and whatnot was like the big thing for me. You know what I mean? Because like that takes you right to Ant-Man 2. You know what I'm saying? So
I intentionally avoided that.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Kill it, Jeff. You're killing me.
I'm sorry, Cyber.
Any other thoughts, sir?
No, that's it.
Okay.
Piggybacking off those guys, everything did go well. I like how it all meshed. I'm just piggybacking off my two homies right here. So it definitely meshed well. Everybody coming in together right at the end. Everybody getting their just due. And it went well. Yeah, it went well. But, I'm not. That's it.
Awesome. All right. So for the final question of this wonderful review of Ant-Man, people. It comes to the post-credit scene. We have a great post-credit scene that happens after during the credits as it's rolling, and we have Hank and Hope. They're talking together, and that's when he eventually shows the Wasp suit to Hope for the first time, and we get the introduction to Wasp coming, officially the Wasp coming. So my final question to the panel that Jeff has so lovingly talked about already. To you guys, what was your thoughts on them showing the Wasp suit at that point? Did you think we were going to get to see it in this film? Do you think that was a good post-credit scene? Just your thoughts on that. Starting with you, Jacoby.
Definitely, especially going into Ant-Man Wasp. I absolutely like that scene showing her eventually what she really wanted to be anyways was a superhero. So them giving her her just due, or what I like to say, giving her her flowers. Hey, she deserved that at the end, I think.
Thank you. How about you, Arch?
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. I thought it's a character that needed to be in this series and be in Marvel in general. I thought of the MCU from the start as the definitive version of Marvel, really. Like, I mean, and I'm a big comic book fan too, so I don't want to like act like that's not or anything. But I mean, I thought what they were going for is making this is the world. This is Marvel Comics just come alive, and this is a character that needs to be there, absolutely. So when I saw that, I was like, yes, we're getting a prime character that needs to be there.
Exactly.
And the suit looks great, by the way.
Yeah. I don't know if it was altered in Ant-Man and the Wasp, or if in Endgame if it was altered, but I think it's exactly the same suit that we get to see at this post-credit scene, if I'm correct. Okay. Did you guys notice any differences?
I didn't. I didn't see any difference really. Maybe in Endgame at the end. I don't know if she changed the color maybe a little bit. That's the only thing. I don't know. I'm gonna go back and I'm going back to rewatching some movies tonight. So
did you notice any differences, Arch? Did you notice any in the other movies?
It's been a long time since I took a close look at it. I don't recall anything specifically. I think you see more of it when she actually has it on. Would be the only real thing.
Okay.
As far as I can tell.
I didn't think there was really any differences, but I thought I'd throw that out there just to because I wasn't too sure, because I felt it looked the same, but I wasn't too sure. Jeff, do you have any other thoughts on that post-credit scene, sir?
Yeah, just it again, like everybody already trumpeted. It was like a great addition to like the MCU in general to bring her in, and it paid off really well in Ant-Man 2.
Very much so, yeah, definitely. I mean, she kicked butt in Ant-Man and the Wasp, and it was great to see her in the actual suit and doing some kicking butt and stuff. And that was one thing I noticed too, that they really gave her her own style of fighting to
Right.
change it up from all the other female fighters that we've seen already in the MCU. So that was nice to see too. So we get to see more of that, and we'll talk more about that in Ant-Man and the Wasp when we get to it. But that is it for this review, guys. I want to thank you all for being a part of the panel. Go ahead, Arch.
Oh, I'm so sorry for butting in, but I realized you were closing it out, and I almost wanted to add a little bit of a topic here that I thought you might want to discuss.
Certainly, sir.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay, I don't want to take over your show if you just want to wrap.
No, it's fine.
Right.
No.
I thought this could only be done, or this needed to be done just with this movie specifically, but I thought it was worth talking about the Edgar Wright in the room just a little bit, because you don't get this topic too much with other films, and I think it's relevant. And I think it's actually a really interesting debate, because you guys know about Edgar Wright. Was the original director of this film.
Okay.
Eventually walked, or they came to a mutual separating of him from this project before they went with Peyton Reed. And the interesting debate is, how is director control versus the vision, an overall vision. So Marvel's a unique animal where they've got a larger vision. You've got a collection of actors and producers and directors that are all working sort of towards a larger vision. But you do have to have, some individual level of creativity within those, within the individual films. And I think they've done a great job of that with directors like Taika and James Gunn and Shang-Chi, the director's name's escaping me right now. Ryan Coogler on Black Panther definitely had his own creative take and a lot of influence in that film. And there's been others as well. But Wright was, earlier on, and I think it's an interesting debate, because you can't give a director carte blanche. You can't just let him do whatever, because it's got to work within a cohesive whole. So I think it's an interesting discussion as to how much a director should have versus how much they should be working, in the collective. And I don't know what you guys think about that, or what you thought about the Edgar Wright situation, or anything relevant since then.
I mean, do you think I'm sorry, go ahead, Simon. Go ahead, Shark.
I was just gonna say, I remember when he was first attached to it, and I was thinking, oh, this is interesting. I like to see him do a Marvel film, because I love everything else he's done. From Hot Fuzz to Shaun of the Dead to World's End and all that stuff like that. Yes. And he's just a really decent director. And I was like, oh, should be interesting. And I remember when that whole thing came up, and all of a sudden it was like they were saying he was having difficulties with Marvel Studios, and they didn't like the angle he was going with, and they decided to part ways with him. And I was like, I'm curious. I was curious. I wonder what his thoughts were on what he wanted to do. And, like you were saying, Arch, you can't just give free reign 100% to the director. You just can't, because if you have an idea in place, you have a pattern that you're trying to get to the end of, like what the Infinity Saga was. You can't really have them altering it too much so that it doesn't make sense and doesn't make it to the end point you want. So, which is, of course, the end game is that part. Yeah. And so, I was always interested in wondering what exactly his thoughts were. I don't believe that ever came out, but that would be something interesting, I think, too, eventually, if they do come out with it, to see what his thoughts were, like what his first intentions were and why he ended up parting ways.
Right.
Definitely. I definitely piggyback off that, Shark. You can't really you're right, man. You can't really just let a director do what he wants, because this is Marvel, and this is, they're not trying to really go too much on the comic, but they are. And I can see the movies, like you said, this Shaun of the Dead, one of my favorite movies. It's like Hot Fuzz is one of my favorite movies. So it's just like, what do you think? Do you think he's going to make it like straight comedy? And then they're probably like, we still want to kind of put some action scenes in here. In which he does have action scenes in Hot Fuzz and in Shaun of the Dead. They're just funny action scenes. So, I mean, yeah, man, that is an interesting debate, man. That's a good juicy one, man. I like that. Yeah, for sure.
And I kind of wonder, maybe if that situation, maybe there was a learning point to it. Like maybe the fact that they're able to work with Coogler and Taika and stuff like that, to let them like be so creative with their films, is they've figured out how to be like set the boundaries and be like, hey, stay within this fence. You can do whatever you want. Like maybe they figured out how to communicate that with directors now better. Or maybe it was just a case of Wright just not wanting to listen. I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I think they've worked it out and they're doing a great job at this point. With
right, absolutely,
right.
I mean, you can see the success,
right?
You can see with the success that they have come across because of what what Taika did with Ragnarok, what Coogler did with Black Panther, and with what Daniel Cretton did with Shang-Chi.
Right.
I mean, they all have come up with these great films that have done super well for Marvel and has revitalized a lot of certain characters. I mean, Thor Ragnarok really did revitalize Thor. It really did, and it gave Hemsworth, his credit due, where he is really a decent actor, and he is absolutely hilarious. And he's not just an action guy; he can also do comedy. And Thor Ragnarok proved that. He had some great one-liners in that film, and especially some of the interactions he had with Hulk in that film was just so sticking awesome. So I mean, hands down, like these, whatever they've come up with, where now that they're able to do that, it has been a really great asset to Marvel.
Yes, absolutely. I agree 100%.
Cool. 100%. Well, thank you for letting me add that in there and take over for just a minute, but I appreciate it.
No problem, Arch. Anytime, sir. Anytime. That's great. Anybody have any other thoughts to say before we close out?
I'm ready for Doctor Strange 2, Black Panther 2 coming out. I mean, I'm so Marvel headed. It sucks for DC, even though I'm going to watch their movies this year. I don't think none of their movies are going to compete with that Doctor Strange 2, man. That's going to be borderline, because Doctor Strange, number one, that was like one of my favorite movies, man. And I'm like, people that slept on Doctor Strange and now seeing him, they're like, oh my God, this guy really this good? Yes. He's really the Sorcerer Supreme for real.
Two looks crazy, dude. Two looks off the chain.
Oh my God.
I mean, who thinks that Doctor Strange will do Spider-Man numbers? Do you think it'll do Spider numbers, or do you think it'll do better than Spider-Man? What are your guys' thoughts?
The reason why it's kind of, I don't know, man. I'm not gonna say Spider-Man numbers, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's close. I wouldn't be surprised because I'm people that are not even watching Doctor Strange are telling me they're going to see the movie. So
because just to throw it out there, Doctor Strange 2 trailers, at both of them, the ones that they put out, both have broken what Spidey broke for their trailer releases.
Wow, really? Are you serious?
Yes. So think about that. Just take that into account. What are your thoughts, Arch? Do you think that it's going to make Spider-Man numbers, or even close, or what are your thoughts?
I don't know. It's hard. I mean, Spider-Man is a huge film. Like, I mean, in terms of box office, it's massive. It's really hard to predict anything to get to those kind of numbers. So, I mean, if I had to bet, I would say no, just because that's a huge number, dude. It's just huge. But it is interesting that it's got the trailer views, man. But
they definitely set him up right by putting him in Spider-Man 3, though.
Right.
So, I mean, that too, like you just said, the trailer being broke. I think personally, this is going to be, Marvel's about to make a huge, they're going to kill DC. I hate it, man, because those DC movies look so good, man. I like The Rock. I like Jason Momoa. I mean, The Flash, I don't really like the guy, but I'm just saying, man, Marvel is on a different level, man. They're just on a different level.
Different level.
I mean, it's a good sign for the Batman, because the Batman does come out this Friday.
He's lucky to even come out early to do that before
DC. Well, it's been delayed 3 times. But the numbers already over in North Korea. It's already brought in 1.58 million for its release already over there. So I mean, that's a good start. So I mean, you never know. The Batman could do some good for the DC. I know it's not supposed to be a part of the DCU, but still, I mean, it's still interconnected a little bit because it is Batman. It's still DC. But I think that Batman is a good sign of what the DC is going to do this year. And hopefully, with that, Aquaman 2, Black Adam, and the Flash movie, I feel that these are 3 really good characters that I think are really going to pull people in, because I really feel that Shazam and Aquaman 1 really revitalized DCU for them. And then the release of Snyder Cut last year really got people back into it too, because that was epic. I mean, that was a fantastic film. And finally getting to see what Snyder's, vision was really fun too to see. So I feel that the DCU is going to have an uptick finally. And we just got to be patient with it. I mean, look at Marvel. I mean, it took them until 2008 to really start to build anything. Because, I mean, they were doing stuff even prior to that. So, it just takes, sometimes it takes, companies time. And hopefully Warner Brothers will start learning from, other mistakes that they've done. And hopefully they'll get back up there. Because I want to see the DCU get going. Because I think it has a lot of potential.
Yeah, they got the characters are dope, but it's just like, you can't get the right production in there. Your cartoons are better than your movies. Do something else, guys.
I know, cartoons always are better,
Cartoons are better than your movies.
Yeah. So, all right. Thank you all for what a great panel. Thank you guys tonight. You guys have been great. That is end of the Ant-Man review, guys. We want to thank everyone on the panel. Want to thank all the people that watch this either on the live stream or on YouTube when it's out later to watch the backtrack or whatever you like to call it. And we want to thank everyone. We're going to let everyone shout out their stuff before we leave too as well. Of course, you can find me and Mr. Jeff Sloboda, as also known as Mr. True Knowledge, on Rizzle, of course. Find us on TikTok. You can also find my solo stuff on, of course, YouTube as well. There's Cybernetic Shark and so forth. We'll let the other guys shout out their stuff and then close out. How about starting with you, Arch?
I always like to just mention and welcome everybody to Sakara, which is at sakara.freeforums.net. It's just it's a chat site for movies, largely Marvel, DC, other nerdphemia sort of related. So show up, check that out. We do a podcast called the Podcast of Champions, which everybody who's a member of the site is welcome to join us on anytime. So check that out as well. And we're doing a number of videos. Myself and my brother are actually currently doing a MCU review rewatch series where we're like cooking out and like fixing in some drinks and some other stuff like that. So that's pretty fun for us. We do Podcast of Champion reviews on Saturday. So swing on by, check us out. It's sakara.freeforums.net.
Yeah, check out Podcast of Champion, people. So awesome. And, of course, I want to thank for being on here for the first time. We're looking forward to having you back, Jacoby. And, of course, check out his podcast, who he'll plug in just a second. But just tell everyone what you would like to plug, Mr. Jacoby.
Man, I'm a plugger. I Take My Coffee Black podcast. I'm on everything. TikTok, IG. I'm somewhat of a comedian. You'll get to see. I got some things for you guys that are coming out. I'm creating some things for my media side or whatnot, and creating creative content for you guys. I love Marvel. I appreciate Jeff for reaching. I reached out to Jeff. Thank you, man. I appreciate the love. Arch is dope working with you, Mr. Shark. Love it.
You too, man.
Appreciate
I'm
you,
shouting
man.
y'all out every time. I'm doing my audio right now, but my visual is coming next week because I got some interviews lined up for the rest of the month. So I'll be definitely shouting y'all out all the time. I'll definitely want to come on you guys' show. And I appreciate the love, man. It's all love, man.
Always.
Hey, we can do it on my show too as well. So it's all game.
That's right. I'll be on there, brother.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you, Jacoby. Yeah, definitely check out his podcast. It Takes My Coffee Black podcast. Like I said, once again, thank you for coming on. Definitely be collaborating in the future. Anything else, Jeff? Do you have anything to say, sir?
No, just hey, everybody, subscribe to the YouTube channel because we're trying to hit 1,000 maybe subscribers by maybe the end of March. We'd like to see that happen. So subscribe, ring the bell, and see us next Wednesday night.
Man, y'all,
definitely
hit the subscribe button today. And if you don't, you lucky I don't know where y'all at. Because I'm going to come get you. MCU, right. Bleeding Edge, baby. Podcast show. Check it out.
That's all we need right there.
That's all we need. Great. Thank you, Jacob.
It's going down. Damn.